When I try to remember my interest for geomorphology, I don't see really the beginning, because I always was interested in landscapes, even when I was a child running in the fields and the valleys of my region, and trying to understand why there was a valley here, a plateau in the other place, and so on. And when we had holidays, my father, who was a teacher in my village, used to ask me to prepare the trip to other regions for the holidays. And my principal interest in that thing is that I had the maps, and I was imagining the landscapes from the maps. This geomorphology of geographer, which was my first approach of geomorphology, was disconsidered by geologists, who said, "This is not science, it's only literature, you have no precise data," and so on. And for me, it was very difficult to experience this attitude, and this is why, after the end of my studies in the university and during the beginning of my thesis work, I went to scientific university in Paris to learn petrology, tectonics, and other things that I needed for my thesis work. And for me, this is an illustration of the milestone that must be considered in this period, this transition between geographical approach of geomorphology and the integration of geomorphology in earth science. I was admitted in a laboratory of geology, planetary geology, where I could study the landforms of other planets, mainly Mars, and also some works about Venus or the Moon. With I had the opportunity to work in the USGS in Flagstaff, Arizona, and this experience was necessary for. I realized afterwards that this, because of this double experience of Earth and other planets, that I could work in the domain of global geomorphology, structural geomorphology at planetary scale, and through the solar system. Fieldwork was always the main part of my scientific approach of geomorphology. It's the beginning of any work, research work in this discipline for me. Before the models, before the quantification and so on, we first have to understand the landscapes, to describe them, to draw them if possible, not only taking photographs, but also drawing with all the details, with all the relationships between the landforms at different scales. For me, it's very important. And I learned this during my thesis work in Norway, where I was always or mainly alone on the field, which is considered now as very dangerous in the mountains where I had to work. But it gave me time to stop, to observe, to think of the problems I had to study, and for drawing. And this is why I have hundreds of drawings of landscapes and I continued this way of thinking and working all along my career. There are so many themes which are present that I cannot choose. I just mention some books that I found important in the development of my thinking in this discipline. For me, the first of them, after the classical French manuals, was this, which was published in 1991 by Mike Summerfield, about global geomorphology. Another book that was important in my opinion was this book by Melosh, which about planetary surface processes, which is a comparative approach of the geomorphological processes in various environments, both terrestrial and extraterrestrial. There were many changes during the last decades, passing from this naturalist geomorphology with a small quantity of data about the ages of the different landforms, of rocks and so on, and the modern period with many data that we can obtain now with the physical, chemical and other methods. And the measured changes, I think, correspond to this, the use of all these methods of, for example, satellite image, which give a global view of the planet, of the continents. Other techniques which allow to know more about the landforms of the seafloor, which was completely unknown before the 60s. This is also a great revolution in our domain. Creation of the IAG was a very important thing. Previous periods, there were conferences of geography, of geology, completely separated, and nothing especially about geomorphology. And in the years 90, it was a real revolution which allowed this meeting between geomorphologists of all nations. And at last I could meet some colleagues whose I was knowing the publications, but it was possible to have discussions. This implication is very important, because for me this is a discipline which has a central place in the study of the environment. Everything, plains, mountains, valleys, shore, coastal areas and so on, their geomorphological configuration is fundamental for understanding the processes which can occur. And who is the best, the person who has the best place for studying this and the types of processes that can occur? This is a geomorphologist, even with probably with the help of other scientists such as geologists, engineers, and other geographers more involved in social sciences. I don't say the contrary, But for me, geomorphology remains central. It remains central also in other approaches which are developing now, such as the protection of special places, geosites, geomorphosites. Fundamental also in studies in archaeology, understanding the evolution of prehistoric societies or societies in antiquity, relationships with the climate evolution, of course. Models, quantitative approaches are fundamental, but never forget this first approach is based upon field work and use of, as can be considered by some colleagues, by some persons, as traditional methods, but which remain fundamental in the formation of a young geomorphologist.